Kia ora everybody and welcome back to the Good Day Matrix. My name is Daz and I have the absolute privilege to be sitting here today with Erana. Thank you so much for having us today, Erana. I got to meet Erana last year, just before she went off on her maternity leave to have her baby. It was so gorgeous, by the way. And it was the most amazing coffee to sit down with somebody I hadn't met before and just connect on so many different levels of passion about community and wellbeing and health. And she's just a wāhine tour and I have so much respect for her. My intro today is not going to do her enough justice, but she's the General Manager for Here to Help You, for Tirohanga and for Beta Build. All of these are projects, innovation projects from the WISE group. Erana is visionary in her leadership and is always endeavouring to be as collaborative as she can in her approach to making insane change in the health and wellbeing space for communities. Again, I just take my hat off to her for all that she does. During the lockdown, Erana was a really key player in ensuring that 457,000 meals got taken out to families in need over 9 weeks. Just massive effort. I can't say my respect enough. Now, the funniest part is that Erana was featured in a book called Womankind. She didn't even tell her husband about it. So that's how low-key she just doesn't realise her awesomeness, and we just think you're amazing and making a huge difference in Aotearoa. Erana is passionate about igniting the next generation of leaders here in New Zealand. She mentors our youth. She works with our Māori and Pacific women to get them into fitness. She volunteers her time doing cooking sessions, healthy cooking sessions, and she runs free leadership workshops within the community. Thank you so much for having us today, and I'm just so excited to learn from you and go through all of the different things, all of our pillars of wellbeing with you today, so thank you.
Oh, kia ora.
Kia ora. So we talk about 5 pillars of wellbeing, and by no means is that the only 5 pillars there are. It's just what we talk about at the Good Day Matrix, and it's body, mind, identity, community and environment. So we'll just weave our way through those today and just see where they take us. But we'll start with identity, because knowing who you are, knowing where you've come from is so important as you take those next steps in whatever journey you're on in the world. So tell us about your whakapapa.
Oh, beautiful. Well, the first thing I think about when I think about ko waio, who am I, is where I'm from. So i te taha tōku pāpā ko tuwhare tō te iwi, i te taha tōku māmā ko ngāpuhi te iwi, i te taha tōku pāpā atawhai ko Ngāti Maniapo tō te iwi, engari kei kirikiri roa hau e noho ana. So essentially what that means is I'm from a whole lot of places. Yeah. But I currently live in Hamilton with my 2 beautiful children and my gorgeous 6'5" husband, who's Tongan, name is Longo. And yeah, that's a bit of who I am. I've known from a really young age that I've wanted to contribute to people, and I feel like literally from the moment I can remember, it's about, it's not about aho, it's about koutou. So, I feel like I've just known that as a part of who I am at a really young age. I'm Māori and I have beautiful half Māori, half Tongan children, which I think is really special in our whānau. So my 3-year-old daughter speaks a mix of a whole lot of stuff. Wow. So you should hear her count to 10 because she weaves in and out of different languages. She even pops Samoan in there sometimes. Oh. So yeah, that's a bit about who I am.
And it's massive. When we caught up as well, you were talking about the success that you've had in your career, and that's through working in the community and helping, but that's also ensuring that you're not leaving people behind, and that's a huge part of, I think, your identity as well, and who you are and what you're driving for. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of my passions is around, developing and growing those around me. And what I've never really been somebody who's like focused on my own professional development or career or anything. I've just done what's in front of me to serve the people and done it really well. But what I've noticed is, when you're somebody who gets really energized by the future and what's out there, if you aren't mindful about bringing everybody with you, you can sometimes be a lone wolf out on your waka. And so I think what's really important with that is about how do we bring the whole whānau along on the journey. A small example of that in my personal life is that we bought our whare as a whānau, me and my darling, and then, our responsibility is not just to stop there. It's not about building our own wealth and having our own security. Actually, we have a responsibility to bring our whole whānau on that journey. And it doesn't really mean anything if me and him succeed on our own. And so, you know, we just last year helped our sister buy her first whare. Then we moved to my next sister. We live in a little Tongan papakainga. So my husband's mum's next to us, and then we just helped his sister buy the whare behind us. And so, you know, we have a real belief that, you know, individual success is not success. Actually, it's about bringing the whole whānau along on the journey. And I try and apply that to mahi as well, right? So you're only as good, you know, as the most unwell person on the team. So actually, how do we ensure that everybody moves forward together? Yeah. No point in individual success, if that makes sense. Yeah.
There's a massive lesson to learn there for many, many humans across the world about caring for your neighbour and caring for your whānau and ensuring, it's a big thing for me of how you define success. Like, what is success? Mine is not standing on a podium alone or, you know, having coveted titles or winning awards. It's making a difference and knowing, you know, those quiet achievements, those are beautiful and they're great, but actually seeing somebody do something that they didn't think they could, that's magic. Seeing a boundary get knocked down for someone, that's the beauty. So I just absolutely adore that about you. That's so cool. So we'll move into body. So talk us through body. So do you have any non-negotiables for taking care of your body? What sort of things do you do for your body? Yeah,
love that. Well, my darling is a qualified PT. So at the moment he's doing my training schedule. But I've noticed as a working māmā, you know, the physical movement really helps me mentally as well. So, you know, often my mind's ping, ping, ping in different places, and that ability to exercise for me is a space where it's like that's my own space for me. So I quite enjoy that. I had previously just gone to the movement and I loved it because it was so hard that you can't think of anything else. And there's something nice about that. But I view the physical movement as my own time for myself. And so I move about 5 days a week. Yeah, so physical movement for me is, I listen to I know this morning, got up after my 8-hour sleep, which I was very excited about, with a 5-month-old, and then went to the gym, and I was watching a YouTube clip on neuroscience. So that and like being on the cross trainer for 30 minutes was just my jam. That absolutely filled my cup before I came today. So those are wins. Yeah.
Those are massive wins. And you're right, like not even just being a mum, but just having a busy lifestyle, fitting things in that fill your cup and challenge you enough. But, you know, like I ride my bike every day and I read my book while I do it. And that's what I need. I need this to stimulate, but I also need my body to move. But being able to actually carve those times out is easier said than done. So it's, how have you sort of carved that out? How have you got that whānau support to be like, actually, this is the time I need? How have you done that?
I think one of the really special things about my nuclear whānau is, you know, to be a busy person as a whole, but a busy māmā on top of that as well. You need a very well coordinated, almost military style precision planning. And so I've got a husband who just absolutely supports me in every way, shape or form. And so, you know, literally in the morning, it'll be one of us tap out at 5 or 5:30, the other one taps it out straight away, and then you sort the kids, and it's kind of this military style precision, but you know, that's how we fit it all in. And I think that we try and be really generous with each other in all spaces and places. So a prime example is when baby wakes up, and this seems so nuclear, but actually the nuclear really adds up to make a difference. When baby wakes up, my husband will get him up, change his nappy, I feed him, and then my husband will sleep while I'm feeding, then he'll get up and put him back down, and it's absolute teamwork in every way, shape or form. So I think our, you know, way of working as a team is about how do we be generous with each other and how do we make sure each other gets what they need. So, you know, the other day he took the kids out for a walk around the lake, and my 3-year-old was on her bike, and he goes, "Darling, you go get your nails done." And I was like, oh, yay, you know. But I think that sense of being generous to each other and understanding when someone's tired, give the other person a break. Last night he had a really big day, so I was like, "I got you, babe, I'll do bath and bed. You just, you know, sit up and watch TikTok or YouTube or whatever." And there's something about those really small moments and understanding, you know, how you look after each other and those that make it a bit easier as a team to fit it all in.
Magic. I think my favourite word there is generous, because often we kind of like, oh, but you got to do that, so I need to, but just generous. There's no competition with it, is there? It's just trying to be as kind and as generous as you can. That's gives gifts in abundance. So we'll move into mind, and now I just am in awe of you and all the projects that you work on and lead. So to keep your mind in a state of being able to see past the horizon and be able to be so visionary in your thinking is not an easy task either. So talk us through about how you keep your mind in that state to be able to think up and above and to be collaborative and be visionary in your thinking.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I had to, like, you know, having lots of different things on the go, one of the things I have to remind myself is I don't need to be there 100% for everybody, but when I'm with them, I need to be 100%. So I'm really mindful that actually we're a whole team and we work together on them, and there's maybe 5% that I contribute, but I smash that 5%. So when you need me, I show up and I'm on, you know. And so but in order to do that, you also need rest and recovery. So when I look at some of my strengths, I love Gallup Strength Finder, but when I look at my Gallup strengths, I'm a strategist, achiever, futuristic. When you start to look at those strengths, you need time, deep thinking time. And so that is something that I need in order to flourish and give my best to people. So I need time to think and learn and replenish so that I can give to others. So I'm really aware that I don't need to be 100% of the time, but when I am on and the time that matters, I show up. And I've realised that that's what I add value to the teams. I've also just, you know, redid our days. So what I realise about myself is that I'm better to go deep in a kaupapa than, you know, there's been times where I'll go this, that, and it's really hard to get the best of me in that. So what I've done is I'm like, okay, Here to Help You's got a day, Tirohanga's got a day, and I just go everything for that kaupapa is there on that day. And then Friday's my work from home, tidy up space. And what that allows is, you know, I'm mentally preparing that day before, do you know? I'm starting to think about the types of things, and on that Wednesday, then it's just that kaupapa. Because chopping and changing from different things over 3 projects and then doing your stuff you need for home, there's an overactivation in the brain, especially for somebody who thinks 10,000 paths ahead, which is a blessing and a curse. So there's ways in which I try and operate to minimise that overload on the brain.
And there's a huge amount of research about that too, isn't it? It's almost like a residue that sits with you that you can't get rid of and clear to the next, because you can't just keep layering all these different pieces onto it. That's really, again, it's just a good lesson of self-awareness also. Like, hang on a minute, this isn't working for me. How do I bring my best? If I want to be on in that environment, how do I show up 100% and not be like afterwards, guys, sorry, I wasn't prepared for that. Can we do that again tomorrow? And wasting people's time. And it's better, I think, you know, just to be clear and honest, you know, straight up front with people. But also I'm a big believer in creating space for other leaders. Like, that's the stuff that energizes me. And like that ability to, you know, have sweaty palm moments and create those for other people. And actually, if we do everything, we're not an effective leader, because real leaders grow leaders. And so, you know, it's about creating space for other people to learn and grow and have grazed knees. Not to the point we're going to break a bone and like maybe get some mental scarring from it, but actually we need grazing knees. And we need space to be able to make mistakes, you know, and fail, but fail fast and not be afraid to get things wrong. And, you know, I try and create environments like that, because one of our whakaaro as a team is that actually, you know, you don't fail in isolation. So like, we win together, but also we'll fall together. And there's something about that I think that's really important, because, you know, there's the concept of, if I get it wrong, I'm going to get in trouble. And it like totally decreases people's creativity or ability to try. And so, you know, I'm always just like, if something goes wrong or whatever, I'll back you. I'll lay down with you and we'll get it together. And there's something about that I think makes a sense of safety to be a bit courageous and try some stuff. I've recently read the Netflix, one of the co-founders' books, Reed Hastings, and he talks about sunshining failure. And it's basically, don't fear it. Bring it out. As soon as it happens, bring it out. Don't be like, I wonder if anyone will notice that happened. Bring it out and talk about it. Take the learnings from it and then make a decision. Is there something here still to move with, or do we need to cut it and you know and end it? But it's also, and that's what we've started doing with our team this year, is who's the leader of the project? Because I don't know everything there is to know about everything. So when you're accountable for that now. So all the bets, all the chips are with you. So if you want to go all in on something, we'll give feedback. but you're the decision maker on that, and then we've got your back 100% however it goes, because you knew more about it. We can't make the decisions, and I think empowering people to do that more and more in workplaces. People need to take the risk and be like, I don't need to be the final decision maker on everything. It's not how anyone's going to learn, and I don't have the time to be across all these different things for us to learn and grow and make the difference that we want to in the community. So the more we can sunshine things and the more we can talk about it, and that's also from a leader, because often leaders are the ones who quietly try and put things away but tell everyone else, but it's okay to fail, it's all right, but I'm never showing you that I fail.
But I'll never show you. Totally. I say to people all the time, I fail like 70% of the time, but like people would like, you know, like I think people gloss over or look at all the things that work all the time, do you know what I mean? Or they put people on a pedestal and I'm, oh no, I fail all the time. I'm like, oh, give it a shot, you know? And so it's important to articulate that actually that didn't work, try that, you know? And it's important to articulate that, because I think people can see the glossy, you know, and create stories that aren't true.
Yeah, or see that one win, but not see all of the
not all the 10,000 fails below.
It took to get there.
Yeah, totally.
So we'll move to community, and I mean, you are a force in the community. Talk to us in general about the communities that you're a part of and how you've found those tribes along the way, and the work that you're doing within them. Yeah,
totally. I mean, I like to be a bit of everywhere, like, you know, to try a whole lot of different things. So, you know, in terms of Here to Help You, our kaupapa was built on relationships and communities. So I think we connected to over 270 there. While we were in the COVID crisis, it was I shouldn't say it, but I really love a crisis. You know, there's something so great about like a crisis, because you're allowed to try a whole lot of new things. And so one of the really amazing things that I loved at that time is we were able to connect in with iwi groups and use our Here to Help You technology and partner with them to be able to serve people in the community. And one of my favourite parts about that is that we're using local people who know their own people, and we whakamana that process, and then we're giving them really good systems to use at the same time. So in the midst of the Omicron breakout, we were able to have 97.8% of people spoken to with our iwi relationships hubs in less than 24 hours, and I think 87.8% of all services that whānau needed in the midst of Omicron were delivered in less than 24 hours, and that did not happen anywhere else around the country. And I think when you empower a relationship and you say, you know your people well, let's give you some really good tech and systems, and then you can work in your own locality to do it, and you can start to see the power of things like that. So I'm a big believer in the whakamana, not only the relationships and how you engage with those relationships in communities, but also how you whakamana that in a real way and not just on a piece of paper. Like to have a lot of tutu with stuff myself personally as well, so like going to gym and movement, and you know, my husband does classes with the Tongan group of women as well to lose weight and get healthy. So we're kind of a tutu really about a whole lot of stuff.
That's really cool though.
You
can learn something from one group that will potentially help somebody else.
Totally.
But it's also just where you connect and where you belong, and where you feel like you can contribute something really meaningfully.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, personally I've done things like philosophy groups.
Wow.
I'm going to probably, now that I say it out loud, it's one of those weird things that you just, pitter-patter and a whole lot of different things. But, yeah.
That's magic.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's a lesson for people, because often we don't try things. We sort of stay in our lanes, where we were talking about earlier. You know, we sort of stick here and we're like, oh, but I'm a netballer, or I'm a book reader, or I'm a knitter. And actually, you go dabble. Like, the only person that's probably worrying about the judgment is you. Like, oh, everyone's going to know I suck at this. Who cares? Are you enjoying it?
Personally, I know it's weird, probably taking it way off subject, but I love doing things that I fail at or that I suck at. Like, I know it's weird, but I genuinely like it. And that's what I loved about the movement, essentially, because it's like hearty, like, you know, exercise. And I went there after having a baby. I think it was like 2 months. And I was just like, hadn't done it. And what I loved about that is I think there's something nice when you're in a space where you know a lot of stuff and mahi's really easy and you do those things and you love it. It's important to also be placed in spaces where you know nothing and you're literally the worst in the room. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It's important for the ego, it's important for learning, it's important for creativity. And so I think that's probably why I like to dabble in different types of things, is I quite like doing things that I'm not good at. Or the worst in the room is the best part.
Yeah.
My next thing's salsa dancing. I want to try that. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear how that goes. And it's a great mindset, though. That's an amazing mindset, because I've often gone, I won't try that because I'll be bad at it.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at these things and I don't want to look stupid. That's perfect mindset. I love that. Okay. That's amazing. So we'll move into environment, and everything we've talked about today is going to fit really beautifully into environment. And we talk about environment, about sustainability and about the environment you create around yourself and work and home. But with you today, I would love to talk about leadership within the environment, because I think you're creating some amazing spaces across Hamilton, and I just think there is so much to learn from you. So my first question is, how do you create an environment to foster everything we've talked about today? So failing, about learning new things, about empowering people. How do you foster that environment?
Well, it's really funny because, I've been in all of these, I always from a really young age got placed into leadership, and I never really at the start wanted to do it. And I went to a Māori Health Leadership wānanga where I got challenged by this kuia who says you have a responsibility to your people to lead, and leadership is not about yourself, because I think I had mixed up management and leadership, so that you do this and we tick off this, and which just did not rock my boat at all. With leadership, which essentially is creating other leaders. And when I really understood actually my job is really just to grow and develop others, I was like, I can get on the waka with that. Plus this Nene being like, kare, you're a leader whether you like it or not, and you have a responsibility, so get off your high horse and sort it out. And I was like, okay, so I think once I had accepted that that's what it was, then I started to go, so how do we do this differently? And I haven't really actually learnt leadership probably the traditional way, so I didn't go all these leadership courses, but I love that because I don't think then my mind is constrained by the types of traditional ways of leadership, which is quite cool. My mum also growing up, so my mum is currently the CEO of the WISE group, which is but I was here first. She came in later. So I think, I've been raised by incredibly strong mana wāhine from a really young age. And I always say my mum Miyagi'd me when we were kids, but we didn't really know. So we think it's this natural thing, but really she was doing it from a really young age. So when we were young, we thought everybody did affirmations. So if we'd put ourselves down or something would happen, my mum would be like, what's 3 affirmations? And so it taught us to think positively and reframe our story. And I think she was really critical in how we framed our stories about ourselves or our situations. That's really powerful as a young person, I believe, to have that ability to check yourself in your story and then be able to regulate it. So it's okay to feel unwell or riri or whatever, but how do you bring that emotion back and we don't stay there too long? And so by having, I think, that EQ at a really young age helped set up a platform for my leadership really early. And like I said, I kept getting placed in leadership, but I was like, why? I didn't really realise why. And then it's because my mum was Miyagi me from this young age, but I try and do everything in leadership from a really organic and, place of aroha. So, it's some of those really basic things we're a whānau, so I got your back. So if something seriously goes down for you, we'll what do you need? We'll put groceries on your doorstep. It's definitely that whānau vibe and that concept of actually this kaupapa can't be done by one individual person, and it's not actually about one individual person. It's not the shiny leader up the top and then the cleaner. For me, the cleaner is of the same value. We all have a contribution towards how we move forward. If the whare is not clean, how are we supposed to, welcome people in and, those types of things. So no one's more important than anybody else. So I'd say it's probably a more egalitarian style of leadership. But I also think it's really important, to grow and develop others, to lift people up. But one of the things that I do is I'm like, you don't need to tell yourself a story about me. If I have a problem with you, I'll come straight up the guts and I'll tell you, and we'll do it in private. I'm not going to hari kōrero around you. I'm going to tell you straight, but I'm going to do it from a place of aroha, not ego, not whatever. It's going to be, if I've got a problem, I'm going to come to you. We're going to sort it out, and then we'll move on. And I think that creates a sense of safety in the sense, is she thinking this or what's that, you know? And so I try and create those environments where it's like we need to have some honest conversations, and sometimes they might be difficult or hard conversations, but we need to have them, and we're not going to go talk to everybody else about that. So there's some real basics, I think, about how we treat people, and how we make them feel, because you can give people anything. You can give them loads of money, loads of this, loads of that. Really boils down to how we treat each other, and the tikanga that we create within our own space, which is real basics, you know.
You'd be surprised.
You'll be surprised.
What we think is basics of
of just human beings, as a whole. So it's not the real flashy stuff. I really think it's the basics, and trying to operate from a centre and check myself before I do things. So, you know, and how am I feeling when I'm responding to that, and making sure that, you know, you whakamana the person whenever you're doing stuff. And if you operate from a base of core values, you really don't have to worry about too much of the other stuff. You know, do the best with what's in front of you at the time.
Which leads us beautifully into my question about values, because people say like, integrity and honesty and you know, fun and all these different things, but they actually don't know what their values are, you know, and what that really means. And I think it's really, really important to narrow that down, funnel them down. What are my core values? So what are your core values, like non-negotiable in any environment? These are the absolute non-negotiables.
So there's a couple of them. So I think the first thing is that how you treat people matters. How you treat yourself, but also how you treat those around you, how you treat the service users of whatever, right? So how we treat people matters. And so let's do that really, really well. And that also spans out into the stuff, like we had somebody who had a horrific thing happen to her family. And then, you know, like those are the times when hard things happen. Those are the times we show up. Like, we got your back. You got, 2 weeks off. You don't worry about nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Those are the types of things when really hard stuff happens, we're there and we show up in a really big way. So those things are really important, and like for me, when it talks, you have all these policies and like, I just like, whatever, I know they have to be there. But like, for me, I'm like, sick leave is sick leave, cuz, but if you might wake up and then you just, I can't mahi today. Like it's not me. I'm like, then you just have an honest kōrero. You don't have to go into the full background of it, but have an honest kōrero and then just take it as a sick day, Yep. So a whakaaro of how we navigate things is like, can you look me in my eye and tell me honestly and feel good about it, and then that's how you make your decision. Yep. So like those are some of the basics of how we operate as a team. Yeah. Can you look me in the eye and have the honest convo? Yeah. And if you can't, you'll know that in yourself. Yeah,
and the only person who can measure that is you.
Yeah, 100%. But I think there's a big thing in terms of being generous and kind as well. Like that's a big thing for us, and we try and think about, even with prime example with Here to Help You, we see lots of people who are needing support all the time. It's really easy to turn, when you're seeing a percentage of the community with a certain type of need, that you can develop a certain way of thinking, and the way in which you treat people can change over time. And so what I've said to our team is, no, you should be treating people on the phone as if it's your grandmother on the other side. Yep. So if your grandmother was calling up needing support, how would you want her to be treated? How would you want her to be listened to? How would you want the outcome? And how would you want her to be followed up? And at a minimum, that should be how you operate. And so those are the types of conversations. So it's not this, you say this and do that. Yeah, actually, how do you want your grandma to be treated, and do that, And so sometimes it's the simple stuff that makes a difference.
That needs to be talked to every call centre operator ever. Because my mum was in the call centres for a long time, and they get the script and they're not allowed to show emotion. They're not allowed, if someone calls up and, like, how often my mum got a call to say like a husband had just passed away and he had taken all care of all the bills, and now this woman had to take care of him and she didn't know what to do, and mum had to just be like, okay, so what I'll do is I'll review your, not, I'm so sorry, or just any compassion on the other end of the phone. Whereas, you know, you just a little moment of, and so Mum did deviate from the script a lot, but always got feedback, kind feedback from the person that often be like, Raywin was so lovely, da 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 da, and that meant more to Mum than anything else, because who cares? She'd get growled at. That took too long. You could have had them off the phone at 5 minutes instead of 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Who cares? Kindness. It's really, really important. Yeah. So our last one we'll move into is portion distortion, and we talk to everybody about portion distortion. I don't think it matters what stage of life you're in, if you're a mother, if you're not, if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you are in corporate or you're, you know, in any type of job. Time is our biggest connector almost in terms of challenges that we face. And so we ask everybody different questions about portion distortion, about the challenges that people face. So what are some challenges you've faced around time, and what are some strategies you may have put in place to sort of overcome that? And if it hasn't happened yet, you know, what are some work-ons?
Yeah, totally. This is actually such an interesting conversation because and I don't think you're ever going to 100% nail it. I spoke to a psychologist one time, because you know me, I'm trying to do my research, like where's the perfect balance, and I was like highlighting things to try and find the perfect timetable, of course. And he said it's not about balance, it's about balancing. And so I've always taken that mentality to you know sometimes I might lean a bit more to mahi and then sometimes a bit more to whānau, and so I'm okay with the flex of that. But I had a really interesting conversation with you know, a team member while we were over coffee last year, and they said, if you were, a fascinating question, if you were to give me how much % you spend on kaupapa versus how much you spend on whānau or those around you, and then how much you spend on yourself, what would that be? And I took a moment to think about it, and then I kind of, you know, and it floored, and I said I probably spend 95% kaupapa and whānau, and it balances, and then 5% me, and that really floored me. And so I was like, oh, that's a bit rats. And then I went to speak to my husband about it, because he's very like analytical and straight up the gut. So I said, I said 5%. And I'm like, I was like, oh, stink. And then I'm like, I knew at that moment that I needed a bit more than that. Like, I don't need 30. But I probably need a bit more than 5%. So his analytical brain goes, so I spent X amount of time at gym, and he actually coded it. And what was fascinating is he spent between 12 to 15% on himself, and himself was like gym and, you know, getting his haircuts or things like that. So he counted that as him time. And then he said he probably spent about 35 to 40% at work, and then the rest was whānau. And he had found that like that system worked really well for him. Yeah. And I had thought about it after that, and I used to, one of the things I really liked about him is that, you know, when I had just had my babies, he'd be like, cool, I'm off to the gym, and he just prioritized it. But in my head, I was like, got to pump, got to do this, you know, and I had to think 10,000 steps, and I really liked how he just prioritized that 12 to 15%, because for me that it felt a bit harder to take. And now what I've been working on is actually, in order for me to be, you know, awesome partner, awesome mum, awesome friend, you know, great team player, that actually I need probably about 10%. And so we've worked on what that 10% looks like and nudged it closer. Not sure if you'll ever get it 100% there, but I feel like I'm not 5% anymore, so I'm excited about that.
That's a huge win, right?
Yeah.
That's massive. And it leads us beautifully into the last question of it, which is, how important is it for you to make time for things that bring you joy? Because often but I mean, you adore your mahi as well, but you know, often we spend a lot of time doing things we dread, and whether it's a phone call we're dreading doing, or there's a client that is hard work, or, you know, whatever that thing is, or just a family task that we may just solidly dread that we don't really enjoy. And then we say, oh, but there's no time to do the things for myself, or do the things that I want to do, because I've got to do all these things. So how critical has it been now with edging close to that 10%? How important is it to make time to do things that bring you joy? What
I realised is, you know, that, you know, in order for me to show up, those things are really important. And I think the hard thing is when you're a really hard worker, but you also work for kaupapa you believe in, it's so easy to give all of yourself and unleash that to everybody else, and to leave such more reserves, if any reserves, for yourself. And so, you know, one of the things that I realised in order for a sustainable piece, and my own enjoyment is that, every now and then, I'm futurist, so I love thinking about the future. I do 10, 20-year plans. I get, really energized by what that potentially could look like. So, I'll take time where I go up the maunga at Ragman. I put my feet in the, sand and the water, and I start to think about what else could this and be, what does that look like, and that really energizes me. And so I've realized that, I don't need this huge chunk of time, but when I do those things, I need like real quality, and I need to go deep with it. But also little things like my nails, I love that. I took my daughter, my 3-year-old, to get her first pedicure, which seems like really lush, but and she loves it. So I've started a really expensive habit with a 3-year-old. But I think about like how can I do those things as well, and with whānau, which make it really important. But absolutely carving them out is essential in order for me to be well functioning and for it to be consistent. We need to be edging closer to that. And there's nothing wrong with getting what I need as well. It's like I can give to everybody, and I can give the best quality that I have, but I deserve a little piece as well, and that's actually okay. Absolutely. And how do we carve that out where I'm not feeling like I'm putting people out? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And often we worry about people's judgment, and actually, who cares if I go get my nails done? If someone's like, I can't believe she did that.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah.
Want to see?
Yeah. I think one of the things I had to work on with my husband, have you heard of Gretchen Rubin, the 4 tendencies?
No.
So I'm an obliger, which means I put the needs of everyone else before myself. But so one of the things that I had to work on with my husband, I talked about him, but just being able to go gym, and he was just like, I'll just go. And there was zero thought processes in terms of the rest of the environment. And so one of the things that we did together was like work on the language, because language is really important in terms of how that makes us feel and the stories that we tell ourselves. So he would be like, I got the kids, babe, I'm going to take them for a walk, all good. And so it made me feel that there was the sense of space. So the language of that was really important to make me go, it's okay. I'm not being a burden to anybody in that sense, So,
and you're not letting people down. That mother guilt, like, oh no, but I should go on the walk with them. Actually, do I need to? He's got it under control. And so I think language is really important, and because we think differently, he's just like, if you need it, just go. But it's like, as a wāhine, that was a little bit different for me. So him going, I got it covered, I got this, here's time for you, you do it. It's sorted. It gives that sense of permission, There's no kind of one answer to it. There's definitely some inner work you got to do on yourself to feel okay with that. But I think creating environments for success will also make it a little bit easier to take those steps for you. And just shared language, it's the key, right? Because, when that woman says fine,
the
dude's like, cool, it's fine. And you're like, actually, no, fine means it's not fine at all.
Fine means you're so wrong.
We are going to have a talk later. That has been amazing. I've got some quick fire questions for you to round us out today. What are 3 things that made you smile today?
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so I looked on my watch this morning, got 8 hours sleep. I was really excited about that. So that was the first thing in the morning that made me smile. The next was my husband every morning makes me our protein oat smoothie. So he does that and he brings it over, and I got to have my smoothie next to my son, which was so yummy. And then the third thing that made me smile just this morning was seeing you guys come up here and enjoy the space.
It's a beautiful space.
Yes.
Amazing space. What are some of your favourite books?
Oh, I love Atomic Habits. I really, I know, right?
I didn't have to bring them up. They normally growl at me.
So, I mean, I'm one of those people who, like, I wish I could read, is it fiction or non-fiction? Which one's the one that's like the stories? That's fiction?
I can't read them either.
I wish I could.
No.
It's meant to be better for creativity, but I always just read like leadership or finance or,
Amen.
Those types of things. I really like the Hannah McQueen books around finance.
Okay.
Obsessed with finance and how you can make that work and all of that stuff. And I really like More Time to Think as well by Nancy Klein. Around creating space and things like that.
Cool. What is your go-to dish to cook?
Oh, okay. So my husband just bought an air fryer because he's doing an 8-week shred. So the go-to meal at the moment is like steak and kumara with veggies because it's a super quick, easy thing to do. But like if I'm like really trying to put it on for whānau, I'll do a roast, with like the best roast potatoes and stuff like that. But at the moment, it's air fryer steak and kumara.
Honestly, don't think you could beat a high, quality home cooked roast.
Yeah, so good with the gravy.
If you could transform into one animal, what would it be?
I don't know if it's necessarily an animal, but I like the concept of a butterfly because I feel like that is, no matter where you come from, or what you have going on, that ability to be able to transform into something beautiful and fly. So, I feel like it would be a butterfly type of thing.
Mine's a meerkat because he's gangster.
Yeah.
And they're watching out for watches out for the whānau. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I feel like it would be like, I don't know. I don't really do karaoke, but the first song that I think of is like "I'm Every Woman."
Yes. Outstanding. Shaka Khan.
Yeah.
What do you do on Mother's Day?
On Mother's Day, I used to go spend all of my Mother's Days with my whānau, but now I'm a mum, I get to have my own Mother's Day. So usually it's like massage, and then the kids will get the kai out and presented all beautifully. That's my day. Yeah, that's my my bliss day. And then, do something with the whānau, massage, nails. We really beef up Mother's Day and Father's Day, but my husband's Tongan, and they have 2 Father's Days because they got Tongan Father's Day and Father's Day. And then the dumb thing is, Tongan Mother's Day is on Mother's Day. Yeah. Rats.
No, you should observe it on another day.
Yeah. So I was like, I need an extra day.
Yeah. You get robbed.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I've thought about this, and I love learning, and I get pieces of information everywhere. But when I think about the piece of information that's come up consistently over long periods of time from our old people, because I think if you've lived for a long period of time, you probably know some stuff. And the things that I have heard from my grandfather, when he sat me down, he told me the most important lesson he's ever learned. I went to iwi chairs, and our kaumātua table got brought up, and they were asked this question. They said the same thing. So consistently, kaumātua have told me this. Which is the most important thing at the end of life that really matters is our whakapapa, our children. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I love all these things like it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. I love all of those things. I do that stuff all the time. But I think when it really boils down to what really matters, actually it's whakapapa, it's our children, it's our family. Those are the things that really, really matter at the end of the day. And sometimes we keep ourselves really busy and we forget that. So that's what a kaumātua said, so it must be on. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's a good, that should be on the wall in most places just to remind people, even just to leave work on time. That child's there waiting for you. Go home.
Yeah, and all those little moments I think deplete, right? It's really easy, I think, to distract ourselves sometimes from what's most important. But really when you boil it down and you get older, what are the most important things? The family that come and the children that you've raised and what you see in those things. So yeah, it's true. And one of the things that I tell myself all the time, because it can be hard as a parent sometimes and a working parent with 2 people in the whare, is that I actually enjoy parenting. My mission in life is to grow the next generation of leaders. Well, I've got 2 there, so I can start there. So the process of looking after, I enjoy.
Affirmations have started.
Yeah, enjoy the process.
Qualities you love about yourself.
Love that. I think one of the things I really like about myself is I believe I'm really kind and I'm really generous. So I think that I try and embody that in everything that I do. I think my superpower is my ability to lift people up. So my ability to support people and help grow them in a space and make them feel good about themselves. I'm really good at that. And one of the things I really like is that I'm not afraid to try. And fall down and try again. So I feel like I've got a bit of grit. I'm a bit courageous. I'm okay with getting things wrong. bit of a tutu. Yeah, I like those, and I can communicate my ideas, so I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
yeah. But genuinely, I think that I always intend to do well by others, and it comes from a beautiful place. And you know, I think some people sometimes say that, but really they're just saying it to say it. Whereas generally, when you know I want to support or help people, it's coming from a good place, and that's probably what I like about myself the most.
It's incredibly powerful. What a way to finish an interview. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for watching. For me, one of the biggest takeaways, it's the first time I've ever heard it put this way, is it's okay to graze your knee. Like it, you know, make some mistakes. It's all right to get out there, don't break an arm. but it's okay to get out and graze your knee. That's a massive mindset shift for a lot of people, and it's something really, it's an easy concept to grasp. So thank you so much for sharing amazing knowledge with us today. I can't wait to hear your feedback about this interview, because there is so much to take away. So leave us some comments. If you've enjoyed this, please share it with somebody else, because this is the kind of interview that will make a difference in people's lives. So thank you so much for tuning in. Check out our other interviews, and we'll see you again soon. Ka kite.